Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Unfiltered and Unapologetic, the space where we name the unspoken, heal in real time, and tell the truth even when it's taboo. I'm your host, Gil-Soto, a Dominicana born and raised in Lawrence, Massachusetts, with summers in Bani y El Cibao in the Dominican Republic, shaped by joy, faith, rhythm, and also by silence. And today we're breaking that silence. We're talking about STDs, sexual health, and the shame so many of us were raised to carry, especially in Dominican households where sex was either taboo or only talked about in whispers. If you've ever felt embarrassed asking for an STD test, if you were never taught how to take care of your sexual health, if you heard more about virginity than about consent, safety, or boundaries, this one is for you. Let's heal out loud. But let's start from the beginning. Not with fear, not with judgment, but with truth. STDs or STIs, as they're now commonly called, are infections that can be passed during sex or close skin to skin contact. Some of them are curable with simple treatment like chlamydia or gonorrhea. Others, like herpes or HIV, aren't curable. But they can be managed with medication, and many people live long, full lives with them. What most of us were never told growing up is this: getting an STD doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It doesn't mean you're dirty. It doesn't mean you were doing too much. It simply means you were sexually active, like most adults are at some point. STDs don't only happen to certain kinds of people. They happen to men, women, married folks, people in relationships, and people who've only had a few partners. This is a health issue, not a character issue. According to the World Health Organization, more than 1 million people get an STI every single day. In the Dominican Republic, the HIV rate is just under 1%. That doesn't include the thousands of people with other infections like HPV or syphilis, many of which go unreported because of fear and shame. But that is why this matters, because what we don't talk about hurts us, and it's time we talk. So I have a journal prompt here for you guys. Was sexual health ever talked about in your home or school growing up? If not, how did you piece it together? And the affirmation for this question is: I give myself permission to learn what I was never taught. My healing begins with truth. Let's be honest though, most of us didn't grow up with real conversations about sex or our health. In many Dominican households, the message was simple: don't get pregnant, behave yourself, act like a lady, and men will be men. But what about how infections actually spread? What about how to protect yourself, not just from pregnancy, but from things that you cannot see? When no one gives you real information, you're left to figure things out alone. And that's where the damage happens. Not because people are reckless, but because they were never taught. You grow up hearing things like, you can't catch anything from oral sex. Not true, you can. Or if you shower after, you'll be fine, which is wrong. Hygiene doesn't prevent infection. Or they look clean, so I'm good. And that's inaccurate. Most STDs don't have visible signs. Or my favorite, I'm married / in a relationship, so I don't need to test. False. People still cheat, and testing is still important. We also get scared to ask questions, especially as women, because the moment you try to advocate for yourself, you're seen as suspicious, dramatic, or doing too much. That kind of silence and shaming, it keeps people from wanting to get tested. It keeps people from speaking up. And it's why so many carry infections they don't even know about. This is not about being clean or unclean. This is about knowledge, prevention, and normalizing the care we all deserve. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. What beliefs around sexual health were passed down to you? Which ones do you now realize weren't true? And the affirmation for these questions are: I release the shame that was passed down to me. I deserve real answers and real care. So, why is this so taboo in the Dominican culture? To understand why STDs and sexual health are so hard to talk about in Dominican households, we have to look at what shaped us. For generations, our families have been influenced by Catholic guilt, strict gender roles, pride in what will the neighbors say, and a survival mindset that avoided anything uncomfortable. If you were raised as a girl, you most likely were told to stay quiet, to protect your image, and never ask too many questions. If you were raised as a boy, you may have been praised for things that girls were shamed for. And if you were anything outside the norm, gay, trans, non-binary, you were probably left out of the conversation altogether. In our culture, there's an obsession with reputation. What will people think? What does this say about our family? Are you a decent woman or a serious woman or just one from the streets? So instead of learning about condoms, testing, or communication, many of us learned how to lie, how to hide, how to feel guilty for being curious. And when someone does get an infection, they're not seen as underinformed. They're seen as dirty, even though the truth is they probably just didn't know better. No one ever gave them the language. No one ever modeled the conversation. This is the root of the problem, because when you treat silence as protection, you end up raising people who are afraid of their own bodies, who feel ashamed for doing what most adults do, have sex. We can't heal what we're afraid to name. And the longer we avoid this topic, the more people continue to suffer in silence. Okay, I have some journal prompts here for you guys. What silence around sexual health did you grow up with? What conversations do you wish someone had with you? And the affirmation for these questions are, I name what my family never could. I choose truth over image and safety over shame. Let's pause for a moment, because the reason why so many of us avoid getting tested isn't the test itself. It's not always the clinic. It's not even the result. It's the shame. It's that nervous feeling in your chest when you walk into the waiting room. The fear that someone you know might see you and assume the worst. It's the way you freeze up when a medical form asks questions you've never been taught how to answer. And more than anything, it's that little voice inside that says, am I going to be judged for this? Does this mean I'm dirty? What will they think about me? For me, I didn't learn about STDs at home. I learned in the 5th grade when we were taught basic sex ed. And later in microbiology class where we went over what bacteria and viruses really are. And that's when I realized how much of this is just biology. Not sin, not shame, just science. But still, no one helped me connect that information to real life. No one taught me how to advocate for myself, how to ask questions, or how to feel safe doing so. I had to figure that out all alone. And I know many of you did too. That's the weight of shame. You start avoiding care, not because you don't want to know, but because you're afraid of what it might say about you. Even if you're being responsible, even if you're doing everything right. And here's what nobody tells you. STDs are often treatable, curable, and manageable. But shame sticks. Shame lingers. Shame makes people wait too long to get help. It makes them hide. It turns normal health care into a secret mission, and that's not okay. You're not wrong for wanting to be safe. You're not weak for getting tested. You are not dramatic for asking questions. You're being responsible. You're being human. And you are allowed to care for your body without apologizing for it. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. Have you ever put off testing or avoided asking questions because of fear or shame? What would it feel like to care for your body without guilt? And then the affirmation for these questions are, my body deserves care, not judgment. I honor my health with courage and compassion. All right, let's talk about how prevention is protection and not paranoia. Let's talk about something that people often avoid, which is prevention. Taking steps to protect your sexual health isn't being paranoid. It's not about being suspicious. It's not about doing too much. It's about valuing yourself and making sure your future self is safe. This is an act of self respect. This is an act of love. Whether you're in a relationship, married, dating, or not sexually active right now, knowing how to care for yourself matters. There are simple ways to protect your health. Use condoms or dental dams every time, not if it just feels right. Get tested every 3 to 6 months if you're sexually active. Ask your partner when was the last time they tested and what they were tested for. And if they get mad, stop talking to them. Or you could try to educate them. Depends how they react. You can get the HPV vaccine if you haven't already, which is very important. You can consider pre-EP. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but it's a medication to prevent HIV if you're at high risk or have multiple partners. Or you could test before starting a new relationship. Yes, even if you trust them. This is so important, especially when you're starting a new relationship, because if God forbid you get something from this new person, you'll at least know that that if they got tested before, you would know if they had something or not, if that makes sense. But let's also be real. Most people don't even know what a standard STD test is and how it doesn't check for everything. So you have to ask your doctor literally directly. Can you include herpes and HPV in my panel? Can I get a throat or rectal swab if that applies? Or can you explain what I'm being tested for? And if a provider brushes you off, if they make you feel uncomfortable or act like you're asking too much, then you are allowed to leave. You are allowed to find someone who treats you with respect. You are not being dramatic, you are being informed. Caring for yourself should never come with guilt or embarrassment. Your body is yours to protect. Your health is not a favor, it's your right. I have questions here for you guys for your journal prompts. What steps can you take this month to protect your sexual health? Whether that's testing, asking questions, or setting boundaries. And the affirmation for this question is, care is not fear, it's power. I protect my body with clarity, not with shame. Now, let's talk about the double standard because it's real and it affects how people move. In Dominican culture and in many others, not everyone is judged the same when it comes to sex or health. A man with multiple partners, he's seen as a tigre, like if he's hot and he could do whatever he wants. A ladies' man, someone who has game. But then a woman asks for testing, she's labeled as, someone who sleeps around a lot. She is starting drama or like she's being too much. And that's not fair. Men are often praised for having experience. Women are taught to keep quiet, stay small, and never admit that they've been with more than one person. And because of that, many women don't feel safe asking their partners about testing. They stay silent. They don't get tested regularly. Not because they don't care, but because they don't want to be labeled. And let's be real. This pressure doesn't just hurt women. It hurts men too. Because they're not taught to ask questions, to protect themselves, or to understand the risks either. They're taught that if they feel fine, they must be fine. But many STDs don't show symptoms at all, especially in men, and still get passed on. No one wins when shame leads the conversation. Everyone loses access to real care. We have to normalize asking, have you been tested? When was your last checkup? Or can we go get tested together before we stop using protection? That's not disrespect, that's responsibility. We need to remove the shame from these conversations for everyone. All right, a journal prompt here for you guys. Have you ever held back from asking questions because you were worried about how you'd be seen? What would change if honesty felt safe for both partners? And the affirmation for this question is, I deserve clarity and respect in my health, in my relationships, and in all the way and in the way I'm treated. Even when you want to take care of yourself, it's not always that simple. Let's talk about the real barriers that make it hard, especially for people in the Dominican community, other immigrant families, and folks with limited resources. First of all, some people don't even know where to go. Second of all, others don't have insurance. Some are undocumented and afraid to even step into a clinic, and some are just scared, not of the test, but of being judged. In the Dominican Republic, there are very few clinics that offer confidential STD testing. In smaller towns, everyone knows everyone, so going to get tested feels like telling your business to the whole block. In the US, if you're undocumented or low income, going to the doctor can feel risky or just too expensive. And even when testing is available, a lot of providers aren't trained to talk about sexual health without judgment. They rush you, they skip information, they assume things. And if you're a woman, especially a young woman, they often treat you like you're already doing something wrong. That's why so many people just don't even go. But the truth is, we do have options. You might have to dig a little, ask questions, or get uncomfortable, but access is possible. And here are some resources that can help. There's Planned Parenthood. In Massachusetts, we have health quarters. And if you don't have insurance, I think you only pay like $50. There's also HRSA healthcare centers. You can find one near you. Find a health center.hrsa.gov. There's also local Latino health clinics. Many offer testing on a sliding scale. There's also community health fairs. Some offer walk-in testing with no ID or insurance required. If you live in DR, you can ask your local public hospital or Red Cross chapter about free testing days. It might not feel private, but your health matters more than people's opinions. And I have journal prompts here for you guys. Have you ever felt like healthcare was not accessible to you? What's one step you could take to advocate for yourself or support someone else who needs help? And the affirmation for these questions are, I am worthy of care, dignity, and answers, no matter where I come from, how much I make, or what others think. All right, so this part is important because in a lot of our homes, God and sex don't even belong in the same sentence. Many of us were raised to believe that you're good if you don't think about sex, that if you're godly, you won't ask about protection, that if you're respectable, you don't need to get tested because you shouldn't have anything to worry about. But let's be clear, God is not the voice of shame. God is not the fear in your chest when you walk into a clinic. God is not the judgment you feel for trying to take care of yourself. Your body is not something to be afraid of. It's something to understand, to protect, and to honor. And that's not rebellion, that's reverence. We were made in divine image, and yet so many of us were raised to believe that our bodies were dangerous, sinful, and something we had to hide, especially women, especially if you grew up religious, especially if no one ever gave you permission to learn about yourself. But here's the truth. Caring for your body is spiritual. Getting tested is not a sign of guilt. It's a sign of respect. Asking for what you need is not a sin. It's a form of self-worth. And choosing truth over silence, that's faith in action. When you take care of the temple God gave you, you're not stepping away from God. You're stepping closer. Because God is not confusion. God is not fear. God is clarity. God is wisdom, and God is love. And love would never want you to suffer in silence. So if you ever felt shame for being curious, for asking questions, or simply trying to be safe, this is your permission slip. You are not broken. You are not dirty. You are not less holy for wanting to understand your body. You are sacred, and your care is sacred too. Okay, so I have my last journal prompts for you guys. What would shift if you saw your body as something God designed to be cared for, not feared or ignored? How would your decisions around health change if you truly believed God wanted you to be informed and protected? And the affirmation for this question is, God is not ashamed of me, and I will no longer be ashamed of myself. My body is divine, my care is sacred, and my truth is holy. So, as you know, we heal when we speak. We don't talk about STDs. We don't talk about sexual health. We don't talk about protection, testing, or asking questions, but we should. Because silence doesn't keep us safe. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us uninformed. It keeps us carrying shame that doesn't even belong to us. To be Dominican is to be bold, to be loud, to be full of rhythm, opinion, and life. Let's bring that same energy to our healing, to our wellness, to how we care for our bodies. This isn't just sex. This is about safety. This is about dignity. This is about knowing that you deserve answers, you deserve access, and you deserve to take care of yourself without fear. You're not dramatic for asking. You're not dirty for being responsible. You're not fast for being informed. You're wise. You're growing. You're doing the work your parents never got to do. And if no one ever told you this before, let me say it now. You're allowed to protect your peace, your health, and your body without shame. Now, let's do a Dominican-style prayer. Put your hand on your chest and breathe in deeply. And exhale. My God, thank you for this body, this temple you entrusted me with. Help me care for it with wisdom, not fear, to seek truth instead of silence, to ask questions without guilt, to honor the health you gave me, even when others didn't show me how. Cover me in protection, guide me with clarity, and teach me to love myself the way you already do. Amen. If this episode gave you clarity or helped you release shame, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend, a cousin, a partner, someone who deserves to feel informed, not afraid. And if you want to support the show, you can do that through the Buzzsprout link in the show notes. Every single contribution helped me keep this space going, raw, real, and rooted in healing. You can also grab one of my blank journals on Amazon, perfect for writing your truth, tracking your growth, or working through these prompts on your own time. And let's stay connected. You can follow me on Instagram at Caitlin La Jefa with 2 A's at the end, and follow the podcast at Unfil and Unapologetic Pod for new episodes, previews, and more. Thank you for being here. This is Unfiltered and Unapologetic, where we heal in real time, name the unspoken, and tell the truth even when it's taboo. I'm Caitlin Gil-Soto. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.